For the last 35 years, fans of Hirohiko Araki's masterpiece, JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, have been asking one single thing. What's missing? Because there's always been that gap there. That one enigma that we can't identify no matter how hard we try. But I think now we've found the key to what's been missing. A live-action JoJo's Bizarre Adventure musical. Yeah, to be honest, I don't really know where they got the idea for this either. Hi guys, I'm Bayfond, and I'm a huge fan of JoJo's Bizarre Adventures, but I was not expecting this series to receive a stage play of all things. I mean, for starters, hasn't it been quite a long time? I mean, I would have expected this sooner if it was ever gonna happen, but I guess the stars aligned in a certain way that made this more than just a possibility, because it's being made right now as we speak. Recently, there's been a lot of anime plays that have been announced or released, and that makes it an exciting time for a guy like me that loves musicals and anime. And while I do get where fans might feel a little bit concerned by this, I definitely feel like there's a lot of upsides to this too. For starters, let's just talk about what this play is gonna be about. It's a complete reenactment, a complete adaptation of Phantom Blood, part 1 of the series. And I think this is a good start for many different reasons. Number 1, you're not doing it out of order. You're not gonna do the most popular parts first. You should tell the story as it should. Basically, as everyone says, it's best not to be a part skipper, and they're following that method here. And the fact that they're adapting Phantom Blood is also for the best in my opinion too. Phantom Blood is the shortest part of JoJo. I mean, in the anime, parts 1 and 2 were so short that they could be combined together to make one full season. So it plays to the stage's benefit here. They're gonna hit all of the marks and they don't have to skip around as much as they do with other adaptations. That's something that a lot of long-running series have to face when looking at a stage play adaptation. So in theory, there's more of a chance of them getting it right here. And I think this would be good because I think the cast that they got for this is pretty interesting as well. For starters, we gotta talk about my guy. Miyano Mamoru is Dio Brando. If you're someone that's been in anime for any period of time, you're probably familiar with that name, as he is probably one of the biggest, one of the most famous voice actors in the entire industry. This guy's done Light Yagami, Okabe, Dazai, and many, many, many more. And voice acting isn't the only thing that he's limited to. He's also a pretty famous singer in his own right, having a pretty successful musical career over in Japan. And this guy basically oozes charisma. In every single interview you can watch of him, in any single show he's guest starred on, he steals the spotlight every single time. His energy is absolutely infectious. Honestly, I think this is a choice cast to pick as Dio Brando. I couldn't see pretty much anyone else playing the part, especially for like a younger Dio. Even though the man's like, what, 40 years old? All I'm saying is, if we wanna see Dio doing those exaggerated extra movements, you got the perfect guy for it too. Our protagonist, Jonathan Joestar, has been double cast. Basically, we're gonna have 2 actors portraying him, just switching out every once in a while whenever they need to. One being Shotaro Arizawa, and the other one being Yuya Matsushita. And I think out of the 2, Matsushita is probably the most famous of the 2. Looking him up, he has a pretty extensive musical career as well. So I'm guessing that that's all gonna come into play for Jonathan's character. And over here, you can see our good old boy, or best girl, depending on who you ask, Speedwagon. That's played by a guy named Young Days, who is actually a rapper. I wonder if this is a clue to how his character is gonna be in the story, if he's gonna probably be influenced by maybe hip-hop or rap overall. And JoJo's as a series isn't something that's just tied to just rock music as most people would believe. Araki loves a band called
Sold Out,
which is like a rap duo, so much that he included them for the first anime adaptation of Phantom Blood. You know, the Lost Media one. So I'd say it's probably not out of the realm of possibility for Speedwagon and Jonathan to have a kind of like Hamilton number in the middle of Ogre Street.
I am not throwing away my shot. Yo, I'm just like my country. I'm young, scrappy, and hungry, and I'm not throwing away my shot.
And the rest of the cast, even though I really wasn't able to find too much on them, they all seem to be seasoned actors in their own right. Maybe a mix of voice acting or live action gigs, it's all there. I like looking at the name of the person that's playing Zeppeli, because their name is Hirose Yosuke, which by itself sounds like a name from someone that you would probably see in the series. And in terms of the music and how everything's really gonna play out, we don't really have too much to go off of because we didn't get any real teasers for them, and we don't have any like real visuals on how the characters are gonna act on stage. No set pieces or nothing like that really. So we just have to go off a few names here. The music has been written and composed by Dov Atia, and I can tell you right now that name didn't ring any bells for me. But apparently he's actually a pretty big playwright over in France. One of his most well-known works, and the one that was referenced inside of the introduction for the website of this, was the musical 1789, The Lovers of the Bastille, which I ended up taking a look at. And as I was saying, this play in specific was the one that was referenced in the introduction portion for the musical. And it said that it was taking a lot of influence from rock music. So that's what I assumed going into listening to this play. And while I do see that, I definitely do feel a bit more of like a general pop aesthetic to everything. I mean, it kind of wasn't what I was expecting, but it brings a few ideas to mind. This whole world, this whole vibe that 1789 brings is something that's a little bit more vibrant. It's colorful. It's definitely not like the real 1789. And I think that's more so the energy that this stage play is gonna bring. Here we get a clear example of how wild costumes are gonna be looking at when they're performing on stage, and just how intricate the choreography could get if that's something that they're willing to do. And if we're talking about choreography, yeah, we've got nothing to worry about with this man. Granted, 1789 is about 100 years before part 1, but JoJo's is always a series that's loved to be more on the flamboyant side of things. And as we can see already in the costume department, they're not going for something that's 100% realistic. They're going for something that's a lot more close to the manga. So I think this kind of vibe is probably going to be matched to a certain extent. But with seasoned musicians already on board, I can see that it's probably going to do pretty well. And then you get to the concerns, because of course, there's always gonna be some. The ones that I first come to are, how are they gonna portray Hamon? How are they gonna portray the stone mask? What are the effects and what are the things that they're gonna do to make this look realistic, I guess? I know that there's probably good ways to make it look good, but I just can't stop from thinking that it's just gonna be a guy screaming on stage while probably moving his hand in a certain direction and then a flash of light comes up. That's something that the stage people are gonna have to figure out to make it look good. And I know that there's probably a few fans out there that are probably gonna whine about how this cast doesn't look as accurate as they can be to how the actual JoJo characters are, but come on, JoJo characters are insanely massive. They're monsters, basically. You can't really copy that in real life. I mean, I doubt that we're gonna get a full-on rugby sequence, but if Death Note can do its tennis, they can do the same thing here. Tickets are currently not out to buy for this show yet. They come out in November. The show overall is gonna start playing in February of 2024. If all remains on schedule. And from that, it's gonna do a short little tour around Japan. But yeah, it's something to look forward to if you're a JoJo fan. Whether you think it's gonna be bad or good, it's more content overall. I always think that these shows are interesting at the very least, so I'll keep this one at the back of my mind. If you guys wanna hear me talk about more musicals or plays that are based on animes, I've got one about Death Note and I've got one about Spy Family. Check them out if you want. But with this, I think that rounds up what I wanted to talk about with this specific musical. As always, I was Bayfond, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace.